Glaring alerts flashed across the Dauntless as alien scrappers blasted apart the human mining colony, not knowing that Captain Douglas Kennedy was about to unleash an ancient human fleet more advanced than anything in the galaxy. Kennedy gripped the comm unit tightly. "Tyro, pull your Packard ships back now, or humanity's old secrets will tear you to pieces." At 45 years old, Kennedy was the definition of grizzled. A veteran of countless skirmishes in the United Earth Space Force, he had seen his share of bloodshed as dwindling resources drove the Packard to prey on human colonies. This time they targeted a remote IMC mining colony on KX-157, seeking its trove of rare elements. But the scrappers made a fatal error. Kennedy was close by on patrol. When the distress call came, he knew what he had to do. He would protect his people and send an unmistakable message. Humanity's territory was off limits. "Ensign, set a course for KX-157, Kennedy barked, "and ready the archival weapons." His crew tensed. The archival weapons were a whispered legend, relics from the Terran-Packard War centuries ago. Their power was unmatched. Some doubted they even existed, but Kennedy was cleared to use them as a last resort. It would be a last resort. If the colony fell, it would embolden the Packard to strike any human settlement at will. Kennedy couldn't let that happen, even if it meant unlocking deadly secrets from the past to preserve humanity's future. "Approaching KX-157 now, Captain," the ensign reported. "Packard ships are firing on the colony." "Battle stations," Kennedy shouted. "Tyro's not getting out of this one." The Dauntless dropped out of warp speed, the mining colony coming into view on the ship's screens. Kennedy leaned forward in his chair, eyes narrowing as he took in the scene of destruction. Packard ships swarmed the colony like locusts, their tractor beams latched onto chunks of the colony's outer hull, ripping them free. "Damn it, we're too late," Kennedy growled. "They've already breached the defenses." He turned to his XO. "Lieutenant Jones, I need you to lead a team of Marines into the colony. Evacuate as many civilians as you can. I'll keep these scrappers busy." Jones nodded, his face grim. "Yes, sir, we'll get our people out." As Jones hurried from the bridge, Kennedy turned his attention back to the view screen. "Helm, bring us about. Let's show these Packard what happens when they mess with humanity." The Dauntless surged forward, its weapon systems locking onto the nearest Packard ship. But as they opened fire, Kennedy's eyes widened in surprise. The Packard ship's shields absorbed the blasts, shimmering but holding strong. "Captain, their shielding technology, it's far more advanced than our intel suggested," the tactical officer reported, his voice tense. Kennedy gritted his teeth. "Keep firing, we need to buy Jones and his team time." The space around KX-157 lit up with the flashes of weapons fire, the Dauntless and the Packard ships trading blows. Consoles sparked and the deck shuddered beneath Kennedy's feet as the Packard's advanced weaponry struck the Dauntless's hull. "Shields down to 60%, Captain," the tactical officer shouted over the chaos. Kennedy's mind raced, analyzing the battle, seeking a weakness in the Packard's defenses. Then he saw it, a pattern in their shield modulation. "Helm, bring us about to heading 147 Mark 63. Tactical, concentrate fire on the lead ship's starboard side on my mark." The crew responded instantly, trusting in their captain's instincts. The Dauntless swung around, lining up the shot. "Fire!" A barrage of phaser fire and photon torpedoes slammed into the Packard ship's starboard side, the focused assault overwhelming its shields. The ship lurched, debris spewing from its ruptured hull. Seeing their leader damaged, the remaining Packard ships began to retreat, their holds filled with stolen resources. Kennedy allowed himself a small smile. They had won the day. But the smile faded as Lieutenant Jones' voice came over the comm. "Captain, we found something down here. Something impossible." Kennedy frowned. "Explain, Lieutenant." "It's a ship, sir, buried in the central mine. But it's not like anything I've ever seen. It looks ancient, and the technology, it's beyond anything we or the Packard have." A chill ran down Kennedy's spine. An ancient ship, more advanced than anything known. What did it mean? And how would it change the balance of power between humanity and the Pakled? He shook his head. Those were questions for later. Right now, they had a colony to secure and civilians to protect. Understood, Lieutenant. Secure the ship and continue with the evacuation. The Dauntless will hold position and provide support. As the comm went silent, Kennedy stared out at the stars, his mind churning with the implications of this discovery. The conflict between humanity and the Pakled had just taken a new, unexpected turn, and he had a feeling that nothing would ever be the same again. Kennedy stood in the Dauntless's cargo bay, staring up at the towering form of the ancient ship they dubbed the Prometheus. Teams of UESF scientists and engineers swarmed over its hull, their voices echoing in the cavernous space as they worked to unlock its secrets. Lieutenant Jones approached, a datapad in hand. "Captain, you need to see this." Kennedy took the datapad, his eyes widening as he scrolled through the data. This can't be right. These readings, the technology on this ship is centuries beyond anything we have. Jones nodded. And that's not all. We've found references in the ship's database to other vessels like this one, scattered across the galaxy, hidden away on remote planets and moons. A chill ran down Kennedy's spine. If the Pakled found those ships... He handed the datapad back to Jones. We can't let that happen. If the Pakled get their hands on this technology, they'll be unstoppable. Kennedy strode towards the Prometheus, his mind racing. They needed a plan, and fast. Hours later, Kennedy stood before a holographic display, the faces of UESF Command flickering before him. He laid out his proposal, a covert operation to track down and secure the ancient ships before the Pakled could find them. It's a risk, Captain Kennedy, Admiral Zhao said, her expression grave. But the alternative is unthinkable. You have my authorization for Project Titan. Kennedy nodded. Thank you, Admiral. I won't let you down. As the hologram faded, Kennedy turned to his XO. Lieutenant, assemble a team, the best of the best. Pilots, engineers, scientists. We're going to need all the help we can get. Jones hesitated. What about Captain Alvarez, sir? He's one of our top pilots, and he has experience with deep space missions. Kennedy's jaw tightened. He and Alvarez had a history, a rivalry that stretched back to their academy days. But Jones was right. They needed Alvarez's skills. Bring him in, Kennedy said, but make it clear I'm in command of this mission. Days later, the Dauntless and its escort ships dropped out of warp at the edge of an uncharted system. Kennedy leaned forward in his chair, scanning the view screen. Any sign of the Pakled, Lieutenant? Jones shook his head. Negative, sir. Looks like we're clear. Kennedy nodded. Good. Let's find that ship and get out of here before... An alarm blared, cutting him off. Captain, we've got incoming Pakled scouts bearing 275. Kennedy cursed. So much for being clear. Battle stations. Alvarez, you're up. Keep those scouts off our backs while we search for the ship. Alvarez's fighter shot out of the Dauntless's hangar bay, its engines flaring as it streaked toward the Pakled ships. Kennedy watched the dogfight unfold, his heart pounding. They were so close. He couldn't let the Pakled stop them now. Suddenly the Dauntless shuddered, sparks flying from overloaded consoles. Report! Kennedy barked. Direct hit, Captain. Shields down to 30%. Kennedy gritted his teeth. They couldn't take much more of this. He opened a comm channel. Alvarez, we need to end this now. Static crackled. Then Alvarez's voice filled the bridge. Working on it, Captain. I've got an idea, but it's risky. Kennedy watched as Alvarez's fighter darted towards the lead Pakled ship, drawing its fire. At the last second he swerved, the Pakled's shots going wide, and striking one of its own ships. The Pakled vessel exploded, the shockwave sending the others tumbling. Alvarez seized the opportunity, his weapons picking off the disoriented scouts one by one until only drifting wreckage remained. Kennedy let out a breath he hadn't realized he'd been holding. Good work, Captain Alvarez. Now let's find that ship and get the hell out of here. Hours later, the ancient vessel secure in the Dauntless's cargo bay, Kennedy stood before another hologram, this time reporting to Admiral Zhao. The Prometheus wasn't the only one, Admiral. We found references to a whole fleet of these ships, hidden across the galaxy. Zhao's eyes narrowed. Then Project Titan is more critical than we realized. You must find those ships, Captain Kennedy, before the Pakled do. The fate of humanity may depend on it. As the hologram faded, Kennedy turned to his crew, his expression grim. They had their mission, and failure was not an option. But as he looked out at the stars streaking past the view screen, he couldn't shake the feeling that they were standing on the precipice of something much larger than they ever imagined. Something that would change everything they thought they knew about their place in the universe. The hunt for the ancient fleet had begun, and Kennedy knew that the challenges ahead would push him and his crew to their limits. But they would face those challenges head-on, united in their determination to protect humanity, no matter the cost. Kennedy stared at the holographic display, his eyes tracing the outline of the final ancient ship. It was nestled deep within the heart of Pakled territory, hidden away on a remote, heavily guarded planet. The command ship, the key to unlocking the secrets of the lost human fleet. He turned to his team, his expression grim. This is it, the last piece of the puzzle, but getting to it won't be easy. Alvarez stepped forward, his jaw set. We're with you, Captain, whatever it takes. Kennedy nodded, a flicker of gratitude in his eyes. Here's the plan, Alvarez. You'll lead the Dauntless and our UESF allies in a frontal assault on the Pakled fleet. Keep them busy, draw their fire away from the planet. He turned to Lieutenant Jones and the rest of the strike team. Meanwhile, we'll infiltrate the Pakled homeworld. We'll need stealth and precision to reach the command ship undetected. The team nodded, their expressions a mix of determination and apprehension. They knew the risks, but they also knew what was at stake. As the Dauntless dropped out of warp at the edge of Pakled space, Kennedy felt a surge of adrenaline. This was it, the moment of truth. Alvarez, you're up, give 'em hell. With a roar of engines, Alvarez's fighter squadron streaked towards the Pakled fleet, weapons blazing. The space around them erupted into a maelstrom of fire and debris as the two forces clashed. Under cover of the chaos, Kennedy's strike team slipped through the Pakled defenses, their stealth shuttle gliding silently towards the planet's surface. As they entered the atmosphere, Jones turned to Kennedy, his brow furrowed. What do you think we'll find down there, Captain? With the command ship, I mean. Kennedy shook his head. I don't know, Christopher. But whatever it is, it could change everything for us, for the Pakled, for the whole damn galaxy. The shuttle touched down in a remote canyon, its cloaking device shimmering as it blended into the rocky terrain. Kennedy and his team emerged, their weapons at the ready. Remember, we need to stay undetected for as long as possible, Kennedy murmured as they began their trek towards the Pakled installation housing the ancient ship. They moved silently through the winding canyons, using their suits' integrated stealth technology to avoid the patrols of heavily armed Pakled warriors. Kennedy's heart pounded in his ears, every sense heightened, every nerve on edge. Finally, they reached the entrance to the installation, a massive blast door set into the canyon wall. Kennedy motioned to Jones, who stepped forward, his hacking tools already in hand. I'll have this open in a jiffy, Captain, he whispered, his fingers flying over the keypad. Moments later, the door slid open with a hiss, revealing a dimly lit corridor beyond. Kennedy took point, his rifle raised, his eyes scanning for any sign of movement. They navigated the maze-like corridors of the installation, guided by the schematics they had obtained from an intercepted Pakled transmission. Every step brought them closer to their goal, but also deeper into the heart of enemy territory. At last they reached the central chamber, a cavernous space dominated by the towering form of the ancient command ship. Kennedy's breath caught in his throat. They had found it. But as they approached the vessel, a voice rang out from the shadows. Impressive, Captain Kennedy. But did you really think it would be that easy? Tyro emerged from behind a pillar, flanked by a dozen of his elite warriors. Kennedy's team immediately formed a defensive perimeter around the ship, their weapons trained on the Pakled. "It's over, Tyro," Kennedy called out, his voice steady despite the pounding of his heart. "The command ship is ours." Tyro laughed, a harsh grating sound. "You're outnumbered and outgunned, human. This ship and the secrets it holds belong to the Pakled." With a roar, Tyro's warriors charged, their weapons spitting bursts of plasma fire. Kennedy's team responded in kind, the chamber erupting into a cacophony of weapons fire and shouts. Kennedy ducked behind a crate, his rifle barking as he picked off Pakled warriors one by one. But for everyone that fell, 2 more seemed to take their place. He caught a glimpse of Jones pinned down behind a console, his face contorted in pain. Kennedy's gut clenched. They couldn't hold out much longer. Suddenly Tyro was there, looming over him like a predator. The Pakled leader's eyes gleamed with malice as he raised his plasma blade. "This ends now, Kennedy." Kennedy rolled to the side, narrowly avoiding the searing blade. He came up in a crouch, his own plasma blade leaping into his hand. The 2 leaders clashed, their blades sparking and hissing as they dueled across the chamber. Tyro was strong, his blows heavy and brutal, but Kennedy was fast, his movements fluid and precise. As they fought, Kennedy's mind raced, seeking a way to end this, to secure the command ship and complete the mission. But Tyro was relentless, his attacks coming faster and harder with each passing moment. In a desperate gambit, Kennedy feinted left, then spun right, his blade slicing through Tyro's defenses. The Pakled staggered back, a look of shock on his face as he clutched at the smoking wound in his side. Kennedy pressed his advantage, driving Tyro back with a flurry of blows. The Pakled leader's eyes widened as he realized he was being outmaneuvered, his skills outmatched. With a final desperate lunge, Tyro overextended himself and Kennedy saw his chance. His blade flashed and Tyro fell, his weapon clattering to the floor. Kennedy stood over his fallen foe, his chest heaving, his blade poised for the killing blow. But as he looked down at Tyro, he saw something in the Pakled's eyes that made him pause. Not fear, not hatred, but recognition. "You don't know what you've found, do you?" Tyro rasped, his voice thick with pain. "The truth about the ancient fleet, about what happened to your people." Kennedy's brow furrowed. "What are you talking about?" Tyro laughed, a wet, gurgling sound. "The truth, Captain Kennedy. The truth that will change everything." With a final shuddering breath, Tyro slumped back, his eyes going glassy. Kennedy stood there for a long moment, his mind reeling. What had Tyro meant? What truth lay hidden in the command ship's archives? He shook himself, pushing the questions aside. There would be time for answers later. Right now he had a mission to complete. As his team secured the command ship, Kennedy couldn't shake the feeling that they were standing on the brink of something momentous, something that would reshape the very fabric of their reality. He took a deep breath, squaring his shoulders. Whatever lay ahead, whatever secrets the ancient fleet held, he would face it head-on, for his crew, for the UESF, for all of humanity. The final phase of Project Titan was complete, but as Kennedy looked out at the stars, he knew that their true journey was just beginning. Kennedy stared at the holographic display, his eyes wide with disbelief as the truth unfolded before him. The ancient fleet, the Prometheus and its sister ships, had not been created by their human ancestors as they had initially believed. Instead, they were the work of a long-extinct alien race known as the progenitors. The progenitors seeded the galaxy with advanced technology, the ship's AI explained, its voice echoing through the command center. They hoped to give younger races a chance to defend themselves against aggressive species like the Pakled. Kennedy's mind reeled as he processed the information. The progenitors had tried to help, but their plan had backfired when the Pakled discovered some of the hidden caches and used the technology to become even more powerful. He turned to his team, his expression grim. "We can't let the Pakled get their hands on this ship. If they unlock its secrets, they'll be unstoppable." Jones nodded, his face set with determination. "What's the plan, Captain?" Kennedy took a deep breath, his decision made. "We destroy it, we set charges, blow this ship to hell and get out of here." The team exchanged glances, the gravity of the situation sinking in. They knew it was the only way to keep the technology out of Pac-led hands, but the thought of destroying such a marvel of engineering was a bitter pill to swallow. As they set to work rigging the ship with explosives, the sound of weapons fire echoed through the corridors. Tyro and his warriors had breached the command ship, determined to stop the humans and claim the progenitor technology for themselves. "Captain, we've got company!" Alvarez shouted over the comm, his voice strained as he fought to hold off the Pac-led forces. Kennedy's jaw clenched as he armed the final charge. "Fall back to the shuttle, we're out of time." The team raced through the ship, dodging plasma blasts and returning fire as they went. The Pac-led were relentless, their numbers seeming to grow with every passing moment. As they neared the shuttle bay, a group of Pac-led warriors emerged from a side corridor, cutting off their escape. Kennedy and his team took cover, trading shots with the enemy as they tried to find a way through. Suddenly, Jones leapt from behind a console, drawing the Pac-led's fire. "Get to the shuttle!" he yelled, his rifle blazing as he charged forward. "I'll hold them off!" "Jones, no!" Kennedy shouted, but it was too late. He watched in horror as his friend disappeared into the fray, buying them the time they needed to escape. With heavy hearts, Kennedy and the others boarded the shuttle, rocketing away from the command ship as the charges detonated behind them. The ancient vessel exploded in a blinding flash of light, the shockwave buffeting the shuttle as they raced towards the safety of the UESF fleet. As they docked with the Dauntless, Kennedy couldn't shake the image of Jones's final moments from his mind. He had given his life to save them, to protect the secrets of the progenitors from falling into the wrong hands. On the bridge, Kennedy watched as the Pac-led ships retreated. Their dreams of claiming the ancient technology shattered. The UESF fleet had won the day, but the cost had been high. As they set course for Earth, Kennedy knew that the war with the Pac-led was far from over. But with the ancient fleet destroyed and their technological advantage diminished, there was hope that peace might one day be possible. He looked out at the stars, his heart heavy with the weight of the sacrifices that had been made. Jones, the progenitors, and all those who had fought and died to protect humanity's future, their legacy would live on. And as the Dauntless sailed through the void, Kennedy made a silent vow. He would continue to fight to defend humanity from the threats that lurked among the stars. For in the end, that was all any of them could do, to stand tall in the face of adversity, to protect those they loved, and to never ever give up. The journey ahead would be long and hard, filled with untold dangers and challenges. But as Kennedy looked out at the infinite expanse of space, he knew that humanity's destiny lay waiting to be claimed, and he would be there to lead the charge. You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.